is Dr. Laura Jakubowski, and in this video, I am going to demonstrate how to filter and collect crystals after you have performed a recrystallization. The materials you will need are your recrystallized compound, which I had obtained from a previous step. We are also going to need additional solvent, and my solvent had been deionized water. In order to help maximize our yield, we should set these items in an ice bath. So we will also need the ice bath. I'll set this to the side over here. We are also going to need a digital balance, a watch glass. In order to do the filtration, we are going to use a Buchner funnel and a filter flask. So we will need the Buchner funnel and filter flask, and we will also need a rubber adapter to go from the funnel to fit into the flask. To help support this, we are going to need a ring stand with clamp. And then to connect it to the vacuum, we're going to need a piece of tubing. We are also going to need our magnetic stir bar retriever, a piece of filter paper to go in the funnel, and be sure that you choose the correct size filter paper to correctly fit the size of the funnel that you have taken. We will also need a pipette and pipette bulb to help transfer our solvent as needed. And we will need a metal spatula. To start, this has come to room temperature now. We want to cool it additionally in the ice bath. So I'm going to place this flask in the ice. To help wash our crystals after we have filtered, we are going to need some of our solvent to be cooled as well. So I'm going to place this beaker with solvent in the ice bath as well. And we will wait several minutes for this to cool down. In the meantime, while our sample and solvent are cooling, we can take the mass of our watch glass. So after the filtration has been completed, we are going to be collecting our solid on this watch glass. So it is useful to know the mass of it empty. My balance is zeroed. I'll place the watch glass on and note what this mass is and record it. Next, I'm going to also include the mass of this watch glass with the mass of the specific filter paper I plan to use. I will place that on the watch glass as well and note what this mass is. I will also set up for the filtration. I'm going to clamp, tighten, to clamp and hold the filter flask in place so it does not move around after I have connected the tubing to the vacuum. Next, I will connect the tubing from the open arm on the flask, and to the other side, I will have it connected to a vacuum source. In this lab, we have an in-house vacuum. If you do not have an in-house vacuum, you can use an external vacuum pump or water aspirating vacuum. Our sample and solvent have been sitting in the ice bath for several minutes now. Before I begin the filtration, I need to retrieve the magnetic stir bar from my sample. I can use my magnetic stir bar retriever to do that. And I want to be sure not to lose any crystals. So if I observe some crystals on the stir bar, I can use some of my cooled solvent, and you just want a minimal amount to help wash any crystals I see on the stir bar, so we do not lose any of our product. So next, to begin the filtration, I'm going to place the filter paper on the Buchner funnel. And I will be sure that the vacuum is on. Next, I will take my sample in the flask. I will swirl it to loosen up the crystals that are inside. And then I will simply pour it into the Buchner funnel. You will notice that the crystals remain at the top of the Buchner funnel, but the solvent water has been sucked down into the flask. So we want to get all of the crystals possible out of the flask. If you notice, after I have poured, there are still crystals remaining inside the flask. So I will use the cooled solvent to help in transferring all of the crystals over to the funnel. I add my cool solvent, I'll swirl, and then pour. I will repeat this until it looks like most of the crystals have been transferred over. I've gotten as many of the crystals out as I can. I'll set this to the side. Now all of our crystals are here on the filter paper. I'm going to leave the vacuum running for several minutes to help in drying the crystals. With the vacuum on, it's helping to suck as much of the water solvent that was there out of the crystals as possible. So I will leave this for several minutes. The vacuum has been going for several minutes. Next, I will turn off the vacuum and disconnect it from my flask. To transfer the crystals from the funnel onto a watch glass, we should use a spatula to assist with this. Tilting the funnel over the watch glass, I will gently lift the crystals and filter paper and place them on my watch glass. I will tap to be sure that I get all remaining crystals onto the watch glass. At this point, in order to get an accurate yield, you should continue to dry your sample, either by leaving it at room temperature for several hours, or by perhaps drying it in an oven. Once it is completely dry, then you can take the final mass and subtract from it the mass of the empty watch glass and filter paper in order to obtain the final yield of your product.